And what are the important steps in the evolution of life? And obviously there was the advent of single-celled life, there was differentiation to plants and animals, there was life going from the oceans to land, there was mammals, consciousness, and I would argue also on that scale should fit life becoming multiplanetary.
T-minus 20. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have liftoff of Falcon 9. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
The idea I came up with was called Mars Oasis, which was to send a small greenhouse with seeds and dehydrated nutrient gel, land that on Mars, and then hydrate the gel, and you'd see these, you'd have this great picture of green Earth plants growing against a red Mars background, and so that would be the first life on another planet as far as we know, the furthest that life's ever traveled, and would get people really excited, and that would translate to more funding for NASA, and sort of to recharge human space exploration.
I mean, it's particularly with rockets. It's just a really like space is hard, and rockets tend to fail, unfortunately. And even when you've got like a lot of really smart people working super hard to minimize the probability of failure, it's still there, and it's quite significant. And people have asked me like, well, why are rockets especially hard? And part of it is like everything has to work the first time. Like there's no, you can't do a recall, you can't patch it. It's like 9 minutes to orbit or it's over. And then you can never test the rocket completely in the environment that it's actually going to experience. So you can't fully recreate something that's moving super fast in a vacuum on the surface of Earth. Like you can only really recreate that in space.
Stage tank stabilized.
15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7.
You may hear some
6,
noise in the
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We're in stage
and
1.
we're flying.
Stage separation confirmed.
And Kestrel ignition.
Perfect.
Second stage.
Capture maneuver.
You can hear
There
the
go
cheers
the
in the background
stiffening
from about 500
vans.
people
Captured.
here.
You can see the limb of the Earth in the upper left side of the screen.
Minutes. We have a relative velocity of 2,700.
The Kestrel engine will burn for more than 6 minutes during the ride to orbit. Here we see fairing separation. There goes the
Fairing
fairing.
separation confirmed.
Second stage propulsion performance is nominal.
We're at 3 minutes and 30 seconds into flight. We have a relative velocity of 2,800 meters per second and an altitude of 170 kilometers.
The SpaceX team, all you guys, I mean, that's really what got us to orbit there. And there were a lot of people that thought we couldn't do it. A lot, actually. But, as the saying goes, fourth time's the charm, right? I mean, so So, I mean, this really means a lot to SpaceX. Obviously, I mean, getting to orbit, I mean, that's just a huge milestone. There's only a handful of countries on Earth that have done it. It's normally a country thing, not a company thing. So it's just an amazing achievement. You know, my mind's kind of frazzled, so it's kind of hard for me to say anything. But man, definitely, this is one of the greatest days of my life, and I think probably for most people here. It's you know, we've shown people we can do it, and this is just the first step in many. I mean, we're going to, you know, get Falcon 9 to orbit next year, get the Dragon spacecraft going. I mean, you know, we're going to be taking over for the space shuttle when that retires. I mean, this is, you know, we're going to do a lot of things. You know, ultimately, I think even, you know, getting to Mars and things like that. So I think this is definitely the future of SpaceX is really great. I mean, this is. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, because I mean, it's just like so freaking awesome. My mind's blown. So it just, you know, except just like to say, reaffirm, this is just the first step of many, and this really opens the way for us to, you know, get Falcon 9 going, get, you know, manned space flight. I mean, there's just so many cool things that are there in the future. And I have a really great party tonight. I don't know about you guys. I'm gonna go talk on the webcast thing, so I can tell people what went on. Yeah. RATSAT, I believe, is currently orbiting at 330 by 650. Almost exactly. RATSAT is in orbit. Absolutely. So it got an apogee is about a couple hundred kilometers above the space station. So yeah, if somebody could take a picture of it, there'd be like this logo of a rat on the satellite. So all right, I'm going to talk on the webcast. But congratulations, everyone! This is your hard work that made this happen. If you look at, say, the cost of a Falcon 9 rocket, which is quite a big rocket, it's about 1 million pounds of thrust, and it is the lowest cost rocket in the world, but even so, it's about $50 to $60 million. But the cost of the fuel and oxygen and so forth is only about $200,000. So obviously, if we can reuse the rocket, say 1,000 times, then that would make the capital cost of the rocket per launch only about $50,000. You know, there'd be maintenance and other things that would factor in there, and fixed costs and some overhead allocation and whatnot. But it would allow for about 100-fold reduction in launch costs. And this is a pretty obvious thing if you think about it as applied to any other mode of transport. You can imagine that if planes were not reusable, very few people would fly. You know, 747 is about $300 million. You'd need 2 of them for a round trip. And yet I don't think anyone here has paid $500 million to fly. And the reason is because those planes can be used tens of thousands of times, and so all you're really paying for is fuel and pilot costs and you know, just sort of incidentals, and the capital cost is relatively small.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
When he says it's a huge blow, Elon Musk says this, What is that? What are the consequences of that for SpaceX?
And another big story, a major setback for SpaceX after its rocket exploded on the launch pad Thursday morning. This is the commercial space company that NASA has turned to for cargo and future manned missions. But this particular rocket was on a Facebook mission. NBC's Tom Costello covers all things space for us. Tom?
With regard to President Obama's 2010 plan, I have yet to find a person in NASA, the Defense Department, the Air Force, the National Academies, industry, or academia that had any knowledge of the plan prior to its announcement. Rumors abound that neither the NASA administrator nor the President's Science and Technology Advisor were knowledgeable about the plan. Lack of review normally guarantees there will be overlooked requirements and unwelcome consequences. For this plan, that is worrisome. America has invested substantially for more than half a century to acquire a position of leadership in space. But for any organization, a public utility, an airline, a university, or an NFL team, to maintain a leadership position requires steadfast determination and a continuing investment in the future. That investment must be made wisely. I believe that so far, our national investment in space and our sharing of that knowledge gained with the rest of the world has been made wisely and has served us very well. America is respected for its contributions it has made in learning to sail on this new ocean. If the leadership we have acquired through our investment is simply allowed to fade away, other nations will surely step in where we have faltered. I do not believe that would be in our best interests. I'm very concerned that the new plan, as I understand it, will prohibit us from having human access to low Earth orbit on our own rockets and spacecraft until the private aerospace industry is able to qualify their hardware under development as rated for human occupancy. I support the encouragement of newcomers toward their goal of lower cost access to space. But having cut my teeth in rockets more than 50 years ago, I am not confident. The most experienced rocket engineers with whom I have spoken believe that it will require many years and substantial investment to reach the necessary level of safety and reliability. If these experts are correct, the United States will be limited to buying passage to the International Space Station from Russia and will be prohibited from traveling to other destinations in low Earth orbit, such as the Hubble telescope, or any of the frequently mentioned destinations that are out on the space frontier. As I examined the plan, as stated during the announcement and the subsequent explanations, I find a number of assertions which are, at best, demand careful analysis, and at worst, do not deserve any analysis. I do believe if the National Space Plan is subject to the normal review process of this Congress, the aerospace industry, and the reliable experts that we know in the military and the aerospace community, America will be well served. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
People who've been in the rocketry business for decades, who say about you that you don't know what you don't know.
Well, I suppose that's true of anyone. How can anyone know what they don't know?
But when critics say you can't do this, your answer to them is,
we've done it.
He's done it in partnership with NASA, which has given SpaceX technical advice and a contract worth up to $1.6 billion, mostly for 12 cargo flights to the space station. But SpaceX's lack of experience bothers some NASA legends like Apollo astronauts Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan. They've testified to Congress that the Obama administration's drive to commercialize space could compromise safety and eventually cost the taxpayers.
Now is the time to overrule this administration's pledge to mediocrity.
You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. You know, I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here. And I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
Certainly hoping they would.
What are you trying to prove to them?
What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone.
When we started SpaceX, they said, "Oh, you're going to fail." So I agree. I think we probably will fail. Yeah, it was worth trying anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
How's that for honesty?
Yeah, they said I'd lose lose all the money from PayPal. I was like, well, you're probably right. And we almost did. We had first 3 launches of Falcon 1 didn't work. Then the 4th one, we scraped together some parts, and that one worked. And if that one hadn't worked, that would have been it for us. So, I don't know, I really believe in the future of space, and I think it's important that we become a spacefaring civilization and be out there among the stars. And I think that's one of the things that makes people excited about the future. And we want the things that are in science fiction novels and movies not to be science fiction forever. We want them to be real one day.
If you look at things over a broad span of time, the things that are less important kind of fall away. And if you look at things from the broadest possible span of time as it relates to life itself, and the evolution of life has been, primitive life, I think, started around 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago. And what are the important steps in the evolution of life? And obviously there was the advent of single-celled life, there was differentiation to plants and animals, there was life going from the oceans to land, there was mammals, consciousness, and I would argue also on that scale should fit life becoming multiplanetary. And in fact, I think consciousness, it's the next step, actually, because you really kind of need consciousness to design vehicles that can transport life over hundreds of millions of miles of irradiated space to an environment that they did not evolve to exist in. It would be very convenient, of course, if there was another planet just like Earth nearby. But that's unlikely, and as it turns out, not the case. I think if one could make a reasonable argument that something is important enough to fit on the scale of evolution, then it's important, and maybe worth a little bit of our resources. If it's something like 0.25% of the GDP, that would be okay. I think most people would say, okay, that's not too bad. It's. But you don't want it. You want it to be some sort of number that is much less than we spend on healthcare, but maybe more than we spend on lipstick. Something like that. And I like lipstick. It's not like I've got anything against it. Life has to be more than about solving problems. If all that life is about is solving problems, why bother getting up in the morning? There have to be things that inspire you to, that make you proud to be a member of humanity. The Apollo program is certainly an example of that. It's only a handful of people went to the moon, and yet, actually, we all went to the moon. We went with them vicariously. We shared in that adventure. I don't think anyone would say that was a bad idea. That was great. We need more of those things. Or at least we need some of those things. Even if someone's in a completely different industry and in a completely different walk of life, it's still something that's going to make you feel good about the world. And that's another reason why I think we should try to do these great things.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a future that is inspiring and appealing. I mean, I just think that there have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Like, why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? And if we're not out there, if the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that it's incredibly depressing if that's not the future that we're going to have.
People want to position this as an either-or. That there are so many desperate things happening on the planet now, from climate to poverty to you pick your issue, and this feels like a distraction. You shouldn't be thinking about this. You should be solving what's here and now. And to be fair, you've done a fair old bit to actually do that with your work on sustainable energy. But why not just do that?
I think I look at the future from a standpoint of the probabilities. It's like a branching stream of probabilities, and there are actions that we can take that affect those probabilities, or that accelerate one thing or slow down another thing, introduce something new to the probability stream. Sustainable energy will happen no matter what. If there was no Tesla, if Tesla never existed, it would have to happen out of necessity. It's tautological. If you don't have sustainable energy, it means you have unsustainable energy. Eventually, you'll run out, and the laws of economics will drive civilization towards sustainable energy inevitably. The fundamental value of a company like Tesla is the degree to which it accelerates the advent of sustainable energy faster than it would otherwise occur. So when I think what is the fundamental good of a company like Tesla, I would say hopefully it does. If it accelerated that by a decade, potentially more than a decade, that would be quite a good thing to occur. That's what I consider to be the fundamental sort of aspirational good of Tesla. Then there's becoming a multi-planet species and spacefaring civilization. This is not inevitable. This is not. People are mistaken when they think that technology just automatically improves. It does not automatically improve. It only improves if a lot of people work very hard to make it better. And actually, it will, I think, by itself degrade, actually. You look at great civilizations like ancient Egypt, and they were able to make the pyramids, and they forgot how to do that. And the Romans, they built these incredible aqueducts. They forgot how to do it. I think the value of beauty and inspiration is very much underrated, no question. But I want to be clear. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. That is not the. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad.
Beautiful statement. I think everyone here would agree that it is not. None of this is going to happen inevitably. The fact that in your mind you dream this stuff, you dream stuff that no one else would dare dream, or no one else would be capable of dreaming at the level of complexity that you do. The fact that you do that, Elon Musk, is a really remarkable thing. Thank you for helping us all to dream a bit bigger.
You'll tell me if it ever starts getting genuinely insane, right?
Thank you. That was really, really fantastic.